Welcome to Range World, the podcast where life, development, leadership, growth, intentionality, and experience come into balance right before your very ears. And now, here's your tour guide into Range World, the president of Get Life in Balance, Rain Kansman.
All right, welcome to our next episode of Rain's World, and I've got Mr. Steve Dunlap with me today. Steve has company value for your life training solutions. He's a husband, a father, a grandfather, chief flavor master with Onigiri sauces, and Mr. Mostly Retired. Love that. Has over 35 years of experience in all phases of the distribution industry. Certifications include Franklin Covey Time Management, DDI's Targeted Selection and Coaching and Maximizing Performance, John Maxwell Programs and Coaching and Speaking, Leadership Training, Disc Consultant, and Kansas City Barbecue Society Certified Judge and Certified Table Captain. In his past, he has held positions with Dara Company as Director of Marketing and Training from 2012 to 2017, and Cisco Corporation, where he and I met, as Director of Regional Training for the Southeast region, and VP of Marketing and Training for Cisco Southeast Florida, a career spanning from 1982 to 2012. Welcome, Mr. Dunlap.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Kansman, and it's my pleasure to be able, and I feel honored to be able to be part of your life in balance world.
Hey, well, this is great. It's a great honor. As I said, Steve and I met a long time ago.
Absolutely.
And we're both doing similar roles, and we both have similar passions around today's topic. And Steve chose to talk about governing values. And so let me kick you off with the first question. Why did you choose that topic of governing values?
Okay, well, I'd like to David McNally, don't know if you're familiar with him, but in 1994, he had a book, Even Eagles Need a Push, and it's a wonderful book. But he had a quote in there that said, people perform at their best when contributing their talents to something they believe in. And I picked this subject because it's a subject that I'm very, very, very passionate about. And I have lived this subject. I'm not just passionate about it and telling people about it, but I've actually lived this since 1984. And it's undoubtedly has been the single most important set of skills that I've incorporated into my journey in life. It's a proven process, but it seems to have gotten lost.
Yeah.
In the last few years and all the noise from the internet. You know, nowadays attention spans are so short.
Gotcha.
And so it's not as important, and has not been as relevant, and people don't talk about it. But you know, in me, there's a crisis of values in the world, and especially in our country.
Yeah.
And I believe that any change begins with one person, and you share with another person. And then that person shares with another person, you know, and the outcome could be that, you know, we start investing in generations to teach them to recognize what these values are. And I think we'll be better off not only as a world, but as a workplace and personal life, and make people happier with what they're doing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I, for one, always believed that if I went to bed at night and I looked at myself in the mirror before I went to sleep and I said, hey, you lived up to your values today, it was a good day. That was success to me.
Yeah. And, you know, and you had put out a post the other day, and I answered it, but you picked out some certain things, and, you know, I agreed with it in that if you identify and you know what those values are, or the things that are most important to you in your life, and you recognize them, and if you tie everything around into that, then like you said, if you look in the mirror at the end of the day, and you didn't accomplish everything, because we never do, You know,
Right.
we have those, I used to ask groups, I go, how many people have had a day where things didn't go the way you planned? And of
Right.
course, everybody raises their hands because who does? And that's that time deal. But in spite of all that goes on and the distractions, if you could reach the end of the day and you could look in the mirror and say, did I get close to my values? You know, because inner peace says the closer my daily activities align with those values and what I'm doing, then you can have that claim to inner peace.
Yeah, I love
It's
that.
not easy to achieve.
No, it's not. No, it takes a lot of willpower. I love that.
Yeah.
So let me ask the second question then. What benefits can someone expect to see from setting their governing values?
Okay. And you know, setting, I think a discovery.
Okay, I like that.
And you know, the benefits are endless because they're interconnected with all parts of your life. I mean, it touches everything you do. I would say that the most important benefit would be time management.
Okay.
And you know, that starts with identifying these values, and based on these values, the ones that are most important to you, and then you're able to set goals to reach those values, and that helps you prioritize. And then you set your objectives, and when you set down to assign priorities to your daily task list, if they're tied in with that top thing, then anything that helps move you towards that ultimate goal, it'll help you manage your time a whole lot more effectively, and you prioritize the right things. And then that goes back to the end of the day. When I didn't get all my A's done, I didn't get all my B's done. C's were easy because those were so easy. You usually knock those out quick, which is not the idea. But at the end of the day, I'd look at it and I'd say, okay, I did pretty good based on how days go and how our lives go and all the interruptions. And at the end of the day, I could say I'm accomplishing something.
Yeah.
But keep in mind, it's the long term.
Yeah. Right. No, I love that. So what I'm hearing, and part of what I believe, is that it's not necessarily about time, it's about priorities, right?
That's it.
Was it Zig Ziglar that used to say, I remember I used to use a bit from him when I'd ask everybody, okay, how many of just crazy now, your schedules are crammed and you don't have time to fit anything in? Okay, let's say that I could give you for free your favorite destination to go on vacation, fully paid for you and whoever you choose to go with, starting on Monday. Could you make it happen? And almost everybody raised their hand. I said, so what happened to your schedule?
Yeah,
it's about priorities, right?
Absolutely. But and those priorities are you base the priorities on what gets you to your goals in life. And that's the thing. And you know, there's once you put a lot of this in place, like anything, that, you know, the tool's only as good as the person using it. And that
like
being tools, and you have to master it. And still, you can have a gap between, you know, your highest priorities and the realities of the day. It's never perfect, but when you practice and performance improve, then you begin to experience that inner peace. And, you know, everybody knows about the Maslow's theory of hierarchy of theory, and that top one is self-actualization. And once again, self-actualization is that, you know, that how are you reaching them? How is everything you're doing in the daytime helping you to reach those? And that's life in balance.
Yeah. So great. You bring up another thought of mine. Steve, what has been like one of your biggest challenges when you're trying to, I guess, develop or live by your governing values? What was some of the biggest challenges you faced?
Well, life.
Yeah. Right.
The biggest things, well, is the world. I mean, you just got to look at the world, because, you know, what I identified, and a lot of this was based off of Ben Franklin, who had his 13 virtues.
Yeah.
You know, and he would practice one a week, and he would try to consciously, in his mind, improve upon them. And so when I go through that process, and it's not an easy process, it takes a real close inner look at yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to really, tear it down and say, okay, what is most important to me? What would I walk across? What would I swim across the river with the Amazon River with piranhas in it? What would I swim across that river for?
Right.
What is that important? And undoubtedly, I know you with me, my family always came up first. Mm-hmm. And so, with keeping that in mind, it was just, I had to look at it, and I had to practice it by looking at it and keeping it in the forefront and tying everything around it. And work gets in the way. Work gets in the way a lot because, when we were in the heavy workforce, I mean, there were some requirements and things they asked you to do, which had a great opportunity to take you away from those things. And that's when the stress gets really, really created.
Yeah.
And so, for me, the big thing was just staying on it and trying to manage it because you can't control it.
That's true. Yeah.
But that helps you with your, once again, you get to the end of the day and then you go, okay, all this stuff, it's amazing. Mm-hmm. If you don't finish it, it's still there tomorrow.
Yeah, it sure is, isn't it?
And if you take care of the most critical things, keep your boss happy, then you're good. That works. And that's it's just been a continuation for me. It's a continuing process. Temptations of life, there's just a lot of different things that can take your focus away, and it's just helps you. You got to keep the focus to make it happen. But that is what I say. And on the times I probably failed were and made it harder were times that I wasn't really living it.
Gotcha. So explain that.
Well, for me, these things were anchor points in my life.
Yeah.
And the anchor points, keep you grounded to what you need to do. And if you get awry of those and you don't follow them, then you start feeling bad.
Yeah.
And you feel out of balance, out of focus, and things just don't go the way you maybe want them to go.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm ADD. I graduated from high school in the late 60s, and they didn't know what that was.
Right.
I would just get those notes on my report cards that say, yeah, Steve seems to daydream a lot. Yeah. Steve seems to not be focused. Well, heck, I couldn't. And they got drugs for that stuff now.
Yeah.
But back at that time, I had to find something to help me keep focused. And or no telling how my life would have turned out. Probably not very good.
I like that.
I was a child of the 60s,
I know that. I like that. I like that. So here's one thing I can tell the audience is that I've known Steve for, 31 years now, buddy. We met in 1990. And he shared with me his governing values. And when I looked at those governing values, that was a description of you, Mr. Dunlap. It was. You at least in the time that we've been together, and I've seen you some pretty fun and crazy times, stressful times.
Absolutely.
And you live by those. You walk your talk there.
Well, and thank you, because that's a great compliment. And I would hope that in a lot of cases that's the example.
Yeah.
Because people talk about what's my legacy.
Yeah.
And that's legacy. It's people noting and realizing, and it's what you leave with them. If they remember you by, and that's thank you.
That's quite a legacy to be in. I want to say with integrity within your values. I like that. So how about a couple ideas for someone who wants to develop their own governing values? What are some steps or processes that you've used or taught?
Well, some thoughts, and my easy answer is and I'm going to say that anyhow, is take a course or go somewhere where someone that knows it can explain it and answer your questions about it.
Gotcha.
There's great books out there. I found that face-to-face training, which hopefully we're all going to get back to, fairly soon, is more effective because you have feedback from others in the room. You can have time to practice and experiment in a safe area, and it can only be a start.
Yeah.
To get you started on it. My think is if somebody really wants to think about this, it's a huge paradigm shift in your life. I mean, it really is. It involves a lot of discipline, willingness to dig deep into your inner self. But I would begin by thinking about the clearest answer to two questions. Okay. Question one is, what are the highest priorities in my life? What are the things that mean the most to me? What are things that I'd walk across a rocky field for? What are the things that I would give of myself for? And then of those priorities, which do I value the most?
Gotcha.
And that becomes a very important part. A lot of stories about that is my values are, a personal mission. They're called a lot of different things, but my values, I've got 10. And mine are numbered in order of importance to me.
Love it.
Because life dictates that we're going to reach a decision. We're going to reach that fork in the road, and we're going to have to make a decision. And if you don't have those things numbered by importance, you could take that wrong turn only to realize that doesn't lead me to what's as important. And it's a whole lot harder to backtrack than it is to just sit and think about it. But for me, if I have to make a decision, and for me, if decision came between money and success and my family or my religion, not a problem, because those are my top two. I would choose them every time. And I know when you're a post, and I would encourage everybody to read your post, but you talked about having that, that mission statement, which helps you make decisions. And I think we all could have gone a lot further in Houston. I mean, a lot further in our careers with Cisco, but what were we willing to sacrifice for it?
Correct.
And when I looked at, I had moved my family. I moved my poor little girls a couple of times when they were young, but and I stayed in Memphis till one graduated from high school. Then I transferred to Atlanta, and then till the other one graduated from high school, and then down to Southeast Florida. And from there, I would have had to move. And I thought, you know what? I think it's been enough, and it should be more about them than me.
Yeah.
Because I was reaching that inner peace. So I think that it helps you make the right decision long term.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, I don't have any regrets.
I don't
have any regrets.
I love that.
And because I start thinking about what ifs. Well, what if I had,
right,
gone to work for this guy instead of this guy? Well, if you sit and think about it, well, that would have changed everything.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't have had my daughter move down and get married and have two beautiful granddaughters. I would have moved somewhere else. My son might not have met the beautiful wife he's got, my newest granddaughter. So, looking back, I only look back to see if I can improve on what I'm doing. But that's helped me not have any regrets. And I think as I'm getting older and older, then those things have changed as far as what those values are. But the basic ones are still there.
I love it.
Still there. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And another thing I know Steve and I have talked about, just to let the audience know, but he and I have had a lot of conversations around this because we've made very similar choices in our career. And I too have no regrets about those choices. It's easier to see when you're at our place, when we're in the middle of it. Maybe not as easy to see and know that, gosh, I just made that choice and I gave up that. What am I going to get out of it? But today, when we're at our place today and we're looking back at it and we look at all we have, because we chose our values over something that was screaming louder, something that might have been prettier at the time, or certainly financially beneficial, right?
Absolutely.
And that we took the right road.
Yeah, and that goes along with the quote I always liked, which I would mention when I was when I was talking about these is people spend their life climbing the ladder of success. Only when they get to the top of the building, they realize their ladder's leaning against the wrong building. And that always impacted me thinking, okay, here's people, they work. Work is everything. Success, everything they have is tied to that success, financial, position. And they get there and they work hard and they get up to the top and they go, you know what, I'm not fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
And you probably know a lot of people that right in the middle of a great career, they go, yeah, I'm doing something different.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's probably because they had some deep thoughts and go, this isn't as important as, it's not important enough to sacrifice this and this.
Yeah.
And we talk a lot about family, but the other thing that people don't really take care of, which is in these values of mine, is them.
Mm-hmm.
You got to take care of me.
Yep.
Got to take care of me, because if you're not the best you can be, then you're not as good for everybody else, I don't think.
I love that. I don't know a better way to end this, my friend. I think you covered my last question that I was going to ask you already. And so unless you have something to add.
Well, one thing to remember.
Yeah.
And here's something I can say. I mean, it's a roadmap. Okay.
Okay.
And if you look and we like Stephen Covey because he talks about his second habit is begin with the end in mind.
Yeah.
And if you think about the values, I mean, we're moving fast towards the end of our life, and you get to the end of your life and you think, okay, what have I done? And you start having regrets. I would have spent more time with this, would have taken better care of myself, or this or that, or I would have kept reaching out to these friends. And so you think of establishing your governing values as the end. Mm-hmm. That's the end. Begin with the end. That's where you want to be when you reach the end. And I think that if you remember that, then reaching your goals, your dreams, your aspirations, and you have a claim to inner peace with few regrets. And that's one thing for me to remember about identifying. I mean, at least identify what's making you make your decisions day to day, because these things drive your decisions, whether you know it or not. They push your action, your decisions. Don't be pushing into a wrong one that you would regret for your life.
Right. Well, there's one thing I will never regret is asking you to be a part of this, my friend.
Well, and once again, I do appreciate it, and I have always enjoyed conversations with you.
Absolutely.
And we talk about a lot of good stuff, and it's good, valuable stuff, and I think anyone that if this perks their interest, there's a lot of ways to go with it.
Yeah.
A lot of ways to go with it, and you're the man. You can help make that happen, my friend.
So absolutely, I have I do run some leadership retreats, and one of the major components of those is for you actually to we'll take you up into the mountains of Colorado, mm-hmm. and sequester you away in a quiet place where you can figure out what's really important to you.
Man, so, that's so good. And one more thing before we go is that I did that recently. As you and I talked. I retired, and all this stuff that took me to here, I just packed it up and put it away.
Yeah. And
with this quarantine, all the quarantine with the pandemic, I just started feeling like I was lost. Something was empty. And I took my own 2-day retreat up to a state park in Northwest Arkansas. And it was definitely a retreat because when I got there was no internet. and so I spent a couple of days and I took those governing values, because your life changes, right. Your priorities change. Yeah. And I looked at them and I reshaped them into my governing values for now on, for the next 20 years.
I love it.
And what's really been cool is because of those, then I write goals for each one of those values, and then I make my set more goals for those on accomplishing it. And I've set quite a few. I'm still working on it because it's not an easy process.
No,
but I feel better.
Yeah.
And I get up now and I do my planning in solitude. And then I put my list together and I itemize them. Of course, I don't have as many A's as I used to,
Right.
but because there's not a lot of deadlines. But for the things that keeps me growing, like attending a class or doing this, if I don't set the goals to do it, then I won't.
Yeah.
So that's the newest part. That's the next step. It's something that it doesn't go away.
I love that. I love that.
It's a lifelong thing. It's lifelong learning.
Gives you purpose. And
Absolutely.
we need it. Any stage of our life, we need purpose.
Got to have that purpose.
Yeah.
Got to have that purpose. So,
well, thank you, Mr. Dunlap.
thank you.
It's been a pleasure again. And you know what? I'm going to have you back. We'll get into more detail. We'll drive this down. How's that?
I'd love to. I'd love to.
Friend.
All right. Thanks, Rain.
You take care, brother.
You too. Have a great day.
This has been another leadership lesson from Rain's World. If this kind of learning whets your appetite, leaving you wanting for another helping of this kind of content, visit me at getlifeinbalance.com.